Funding for this program is provided by... Since 1923, Roy O. Martin, a Louisiana-based wood products company, has followed the example of its founder to give back to our Louisiana communities where we live and work. To learn more, visit royomartin.com. And by Louisiana Healthcare Connections is improving the health of our communities one person at a time. We connect children and families all across the state to quality health care. Louisiana Healthcare Connections, a Bayou Health plan. Additional funding is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Robert Crais grew up in Baton Rouge among a blue-collar family of oil refinery workers and police officers. He enjoyed writing short stories early on, but of the many things that helped start his career as a writer, one springboard was a visit to what is now a shuttered second-hand bookstore called the Book Exchange.
I discovered Raymond Chandler there. I picked up a paperback copy of Chandler's The Little Sister. And I'll be honest with you, the only reason I bought it is because they had a really good-looking girl on the cover. It was like 19 cents. And I fell in love with Raymond Chandler's words.
His passion for writing continued throughout his high school days and even as an engineering major at LSU. But in 1976, just one semester shy of earning his mechanical engineering degree, Crais decided to go to California to pursue his dream.
His parents had taken him there when he was a kid, and he wanted to go back there. And he had to do it, whether it would kill him or not. He had to get over there. He had to see if he could do it.
Without a single contact in the industry, Robert found a cheap apartment in Hollywood, worked days in a mailroom, and wrote after hours. 9 months later, Crais sold his first script to the producers of the hit television crime drama, Beretta. Other television credits would soon follow, including Miami Vice, Quincy, as well as Cagney Lacey. Crais even earned an Emmy nomination for his work on Hill Street Blues. But for Robert, there were many more chapters to be written.
I wanted to write everything. I just didn't want to write TV. I wanted to write short stories. I wanted to write television. I wanted to write books. I just wanted to write everything. Still do.
His lifelong dream of becoming a novelist began in the mid-'80s. Following the death of his father, Robert wrote The Monkey's Raincoat. Crais was inspired to create Elvis Cole, using elements of his own life as the basis of the story. The Monkey's Raincoat won the 1988 Anthony Award for Best First Novel, and a new life as a best-selling crime novelist began. In 1999, the Elvis Cole readership and fan base skyrocketed following the publication of L.A. Requiem, which became a New York Times and Los Angeles Times bestseller.
He always manages to work in a Louisiana connection in his novels. It might be an old girlfriend who comes to visit from Louisiana, and they all have Louisiana names. And so it's it gives you a feeling of familiarity.
In 2006, Crais was awarded the Ross McDonald Literary Award, and in 2010, the Private Eye Writers of America Lifetime Achievement Award, the Eye. Robert Crais' novels have been published in 62 countries, and his legions of dedicated fans can be found all around the world.
I love hearing Robert read his books. He is just such a sweet person.
Crais also wrote non-series novels, including Hostage in 2001, which was a worldwide bestseller and named a notable book of the year by the New York Times. In 2005, the film adaptation of Hostage was released, starring Bruce Willis. The career of Robert Crais continues to captivate audiences around the globe. In the words of Robert's hero, Raymond Chandler, Down these mean streets a man must go who is not himself mean, who is neither tarnished nor afraid. He is the hero. He is everything. And in a few words, we choose to describe Robert Crais. He is talented, driven, fearless, as well as a Louisiana legend. Good evening and welcome to Louisiana Legends. I'm Beth Courtney, president of LPB, and it is a true pleasure to share tonight's conversation with you. As you've just seen, this evening's legend is internationally renowned author Robert Crais. His short biography hit many of the high points of his career, but we wanted the opportunity to speak with him in depth about himself and his writing. Good evening, Bob, and I'm glad to have you here.
Hi, Beth. It's great to be back.
I'm glad. You say back because we are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
We're in my home.
Your home.
I am of this place.
Of this place.
And I come back as often as I can, which is fairly frequently, because I love it here so much. And the chance to come back and be with you and to be honored the way I was with the Louisiana Legends Gala Award is the most precious thing in the world to me.
Well, it's certainly nice to see that the people from your hometown recognize what you have become, and you've been subjected to all kinds of things since you've come home. We've made you look at junior high yearbooks.
You've been cruel, Beth. Been cruel. I just, for the record, you're horrible people. You have to relive your past. You know, one of the things when I was watching the video at the gala, and then the yearbook photo, all these pictures of me as a kid, and then pictures I had forgotten I'd put out of it, because we forget what we look like when we're 11 years old, and when we have gaps in our smiles, and it's been like time travel for me. And some of those trips were nightmare trips. I'm just letting you know. But I'm above that now, Beth. So
yes, we're
enjoying
wildly successful. So, and we're so proud of you. So we claim you as our own, as one of our great authors.
It struck me when you were just making the intro and you said internationally best-selling writer. I'm still the kid in those yearbook photos.
I know.
And that's how I feel inside. So to think in terms of how someone on the outside of that kid would phrase it, internationally best-selling writer, it's like I slipped in the back door. I don't really know who you're talking about, but I'm happy to sit here and pretend to be that person.
We've certainly seen the record. And how many books have you written?
I think it's, as we speak, it's 19. I think my 20th is going to come out later this year.
And it takes you a long time to write a book, I hear.
I try to do one a year, but sometimes the larger, more complicated books take longer. So I'm a little behind my schedule right now. But that's okay, because the book is going to be worth it. And I always try to deliver a novel that I'm proud of and happy with, and that my readers around the world are going to be pleased by too. And I feel a responsibility to do that.
I was looking at research, and someone called some of your fans crazies.
Yeah, they name themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Now, Crais is actually a French name, right?
Yeah, it's a French name. My family's from here. We have family all throughout South Louisiana. My dad's name was Crais. My mom's name was Melanson, so it's Cajun French from both sides. So I'm a Louisiana boy all the way through and all the way back.
Well, for just a moment, we saw in your biography that you abandoned your engineering career before it started at LSU, after you went through Baton Rouge High and Louisiana State University, and you determined to go to Los Angeles.
I want to be a writer.
You wanted to be a writer. Now, how frightening was that? Or were you just, always that impetuous?
It was impetuous to the outside world, but it was a decision that I had been working toward for a long time. I was actually I like the term, I was a closet writer. My writing was something I kept to myself. In my immediate family at the time, people didn't understand writing, what to be a writer meant. It would be as if you were saying, I want to be an actor, or I want to be, a gallery painter, an artist of some kind. It's not something that was familiar. What was familiar and was hard, concrete things like be an engineer, be a policeman, be an accountant, being a doctor. be something you could go to school for, graduate for. Writing is like mystical and magical. You know, you can go to school for it all you want, but unless you're able to deliver that thing that people will pay money for, you can't earn your living at it, and it's just too chancy and iffy. But I never thought of it as a way to make a living. I'm compelled to tell stories. I think I always have been, ever since I was a child. So for me, it was natural. I couldn't have done anything else.
Telling stories in your own backyard is one thing, but
Yeah.
moving to Los Angeles, where as I appreciate it, you didn't have any connections.
None. Why LA? As we said, I'm here from Baton Rouge. I grew up in the Goodwood area, and at that time, just on Florida Street, 6 miles from the Capitol, there was a Florida Drive-In Theater, and we lived on the backside of that theater. When I was a boy, we didn't have air conditioning, so the windows were always open, and every night I would hear the dialogue from the speaker trees. Every night, double bill, really cheesy, crummy, horrible, 2,000 Maniacs, Blood Feast.
I can smell the pick or whatever to keep the
Right,
mosquitoes
the
off.
thing you would burn, that spiral thing
Right.
people would burn because the mosquitoes were everywhere.
Right.
Fogs of mosquitoes. I developed early a love for film, a love for movies. I used to make Super 8 movies. I wanted to tell, I was a voracious reader. I wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories in every format, whether prose stories in magazines and in books or stories on film. By the time I went to Los Angeles, I had sold 3 or 4 short stories. Short stories don't pay very much, and I had begun to entertain the fantasy that perhaps I could make a living at this, but I had to go someplace where the market would pay you a living wage. And at that time, really, Hollywood was it. I could write for TV, write for movies in success, and make a living with words, which is what I wanted to do.
Is that true today, too?
Yes, it is. There's more opportunity now, I think, than when I did it, because there's so much more programming needs with with all the cable channels and whatnot. There's so many more narrative shows on television than the internet is a burgeoning market, a growing market. Big booksellers like Amazon are making original, on and on and on, hundreds of shows. So young writers, wherever they are, can do it probably from home. Now, I had to go to Hollywood.
Well, we saw in your bio that you wrote for Hill Street Blues, Cagney and Lacey, all sorts of police dramas in many instances.
Yeah.
And I understand Cagney and Lacey was your favorite because?
Because of the writers I worked with, actually. Yeah. Well, I love the characters.
Right.
Cagney and Lacey, Tyne Daly and Sharon Gless, the actresses, were very interesting, front-of-the-curve characters for their time. These 2 women who were detectives in a male world at that time, male world. To explore them was fascinating. To work with actresses of that caliber was insanely enriching for me. I think of my TV years, because that's the front part of my career, I think of that as my time as a baby writer. And the lessons I learned from television, from working on shows like Cagney and Lacey, from working on shows like Hill Street Blues, and the writers with those shows, and the actors in those shows, taught me an enormous amount about every aspect of writing.
Structure and plot.
Yes,
and all the,
structure, plot, dialogue, nuance, characterization, self-editing. I mean, I could just go through the list. That was my school. And I think, hopefully, those things that I learned then, I've been able to apply to my books when I turned my career around and started writing books. And now, all these books later, I think it's...
So, but writing books, it really is a solitary activity, isn't it?
Yes, it's completely different.
So you seem to have an extrovertish personality, or is that just a facade?
I drink heavily, Beth.
I mean, are you content writing alone? What's
I love to write.
Discipline?
Yeah, the 2 worlds are completely different. TV is a collaborative sport. Most shows have what's called a writer's room. So the writers and all the writer producers are there. You're with other people. You break stories together. You discuss everything with a group. It's a very social environment. And I learned to function in that environment. I think I did it fairly well. I certainly had a good time doing it. Books are completely different in that you're alone in a room. it's just you and whatever your computer or your pad and your pen. But see, the thing of it for me is I love writing. I love making up stories. So when I'm alone with myself writing a novel, it's really in many ways no different from being in that writer's room, because my pleasure comes in being in the heads of those characters, comes in figuring out interesting stories, creating those things that are going to hopefully entertain you. Mm-hmm. That's what I do, and it's who I am. So I don't miss the writer's room. I'm still doing exactly what it is I want to do.
Well, Elvis Cole, Joe Pike, your iconic characters. Everybody says, Elvis is a bit of you.
Everybody says that.
Joe Pike.
Well, I like to think I'm Joe Pike.
I like to think you're Joe Pike.
But everyone says no.
Everyone says no. Right. Well, but now you're, in your later novels, you are having a woman as the heroine of some of your books. Is it harder to write as having a woman as the principal voice?
No, and I think the answer is because of Cagney and Lacey.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
For a year I worked on Cagney and Lacey, and that was a great tutorial in how to write well and respectfully of and about and for women. You know, when you're a writer writing scripts for strong, nuanced actresses like Tyne Daly and Sharon Gless, you learn a lot because you have to listen to them. You know, you're tailoring the dialogue, you're tailoring the emotion and scenes to them, to what's going to play on the stage. When you're on the stage and you're watching them walk through your lines, you're learning what works and what doesn't work. And my boss on that show was a woman named Avril Smith, who's now a novelist. So I worked for 3 women, and I was open to what they had to say, to their input. And I'm so glad that I was, because I hope I learned I learned the truth of what being female is for creating a character like that. Mm-hmm. So now in my books, when I'm dealing with, for example, a bomb technician named Carol Starkey, or female LAPD detectives, or whatever the woman character is, I bring all those things that I learned from Cagney and Lacey and the other shows to the page in my novels.
I've been thinking about your novels all set in a police venue or crime. Do you look at contemporary news stories right now, and the police are under a lot of pressure? Police are being accused of being, egregiously difficult with African Americans, or now all of the cameras that they have to have attached to them, things like that. Do you sense that maybe the headlines will come into any of your future novels?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I always have done that. Yeah. I mean, first of all, half my family when I was growing up here were police officers. My mom's half of the family were everybody was a police officer, either the Baton Rouge Police Department or the state police. And what that automatically gives me as a base is an appreciation of police officers as human beings. You're not in the car riding around with them or on the motorcycle riding around with them, but you see them in real life. Real life meaning who they are with their families and their friends, and you realize they're human beings. They're good people. They're people. When I became a writer and started telling stories almost exclusively, most of which are cop-oriented or crime-oriented in some way, you bring that to it. And I've always been an avid researcher. I spend a lot of time with LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, because I live in Los Angeles now. Every aspect of that. I pay attention to what's happening in the news. And it can't help but enrichen my work. And I think I think helps me to create more interesting stories for people to enjoy.
Certainly your Elvis has not yet been in a movie. To my understanding.
No.
Is he ever going to be?
I don't think so.
No, you think not?
No, there are certain books. I write standalone books that are not Elvis Cole books. Most of my books, I'm known for the guy who writes Elvis Cole and Joe Pike novels. I love those guys. I will always write them. I write standalone books that have nothing to do with them. For example, one of my recent books was a book called Suspect about an LAPD canine officer named Scott James and his German Shepherd, his canine Maggie. And that's going to be a movie. Right. It's a standalone book. I love those characters. I'm bringing them back because I really enjoyed writing about the dog and the dog handler. But it's in development now as a motion picture. I wrote a book called The 2-Minute Rule about a reformed thief, a man a bank robber who was in prison and got out of prison. It's in development as a motion picture. It's going to be a film. So I love films, but for Elvis and Joe, I don't know that I would enjoy the process of film.
And they might distort your character too. Like James Lee Burke, who was also a Louisiana legend, writes,
brilliant novels. I love his work.
Brilliant. Yeah. He doesn't seem to be particularly happy with most of the movies that have been made out of his books. And then you get that disappointment too. Most
of the novelists that I know aren't happy with film treatment. I understand that on one level, but for many years I was a professional screenwriter, TV writer. I know what the process is. I know that the movie, for example, the movie of Suspect, it's not going to be my book, and it shouldn't be. My book is the book. The movie has to be the movie, which is a different medium. It's a different thing, and I respect that. I understand that. With Elvis and Joe, they are so much part of me. They are so much part of the fabric of my life. I think I'd just be happier. But, I'm saying all this. Maybe next Thursday I decide, what the heck, I'm going to go ahead and sell them. Why not?
I know.
But so far
not.
20 years, no.
Well, I was looking at some of the references to Louisiana in some of your books. Of course, Lucy Chenier. And this book that I have right here that I'm looking at, Voodoo River. Is this the only one set?
Yeah, it's the only one of the books that is set in Louisiana. Yeah.
And you're true to all the locations.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Absolutely.
All those places exist.
A documentary.
Baton Rouge, Ville Platte, New Orleans. Every place Elvis goes in there is a real place.
Elvis has a few other things. He drinks some kind of beer, and he has all these. He likes Louisiana food.
He loves Louisiana food. Yes. And his girlfriend is from Louisiana, so he likes Louisiana women.
That's a pretty nice tribute as well.
I hear them smirking and laughing in the background. That's a popular thing.
They like that. Well, I guess for us, everybody's always saying, how can I break in? What can I do? I think young writers now have a difficult time, too, because they don't have an automatic way. Short stories, magazines aren't buying.
Right. No magazines really left.
No magazines.
There's online outlets. There's e-magazines, digital magazines that publish online. There's a lot of opportunity there. I'm involved with the Clarion Science Fiction Writers Workshop, which currently is at University of California, San Diego, UCSD. I'm on the board of directors of Clarion. And it means a lot to me because I'm a graduate. LPB and I have something in common.
What?
This year now is your
40th
anniversary because LPB went live in 1975.
Yes.
In 1975, I went live as a writer. 1975 was the year two things happened. I attended the Clarion Writers Workshop as a young baby student writer. And that same year, I sold my first short story for the grand total of $50, my first fiction sale. So LPB and I went live and began our careers the same year. And I think that's great. I think that's really cool.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you succeeded. You've won the highest prizes. You're a Grandmaster of the. Is that the
Mystery Writers of America, which is a long-standing organization of professional mystery and crime writers. Since 1955, every year, they bestow their Grandmaster Award upon someone they feel is deserving of that status.
I've seen the list.
It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And in 2014, myself and another writer, Carolyn Hart, who's fabulous, she's sort of like the American Agatha Christie, they named us Grandmaster. So I'm an MWA Grandmaster, which is as high as it gets in the field of crime and mystery writing.
From 1975 to the pinnacle of mystery writing, I hope LPB and you, our careers track.
I think we are.
I think we are.
There's still more to go. We're just climbing.
Just beginning.
Yeah.
And so you're out there in the other L.A., but we hope you come home to the real L.A. often.
I will.
We'd like
I do.
to see you. Okay.
Catfish Po' Boys. I'm there.
All right. Well, thank you for the conversation, and thank you for joining us as well. I hope you've gained a little insight into what makes a person a Louisiana legend. We've enjoyed the conversation with Robert Crais, and I hope that you will join us for another interview with a Louisiana legend. Good night.
Funding for this program is provided by Cheniere Energy. We value the role we play in communities where we operate and live, and have provided over $1 million to worthy causes in the past year. Cheniere Energy looks forward to continuing our relationships with our neighbors in Southwest Louisiana. And by the Louisiana Lottery proudly honors LPB's 2015 Louisiana Legends with over $3 billion in proceeds benefiting K-12 public education. The lottery celebrates all the ways we give Louisiana a reason to smile. Calvin Braxton, Natchitoches Ford Lincoln, serving the community for over 20 years and proud to be one of the premier dealerships in central Louisiana, is also pleased to underwrite Louisiana Legends and Louisiana Public Broadcasting. For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.